Hey everybody, what's up? Gary Simon here. So today we're going to be stepping into the world of front-end development with the aid of GSAP, which is the GreenSock animation platform, in order to animate the UI design that I did 2 days ago. I did a tutorial. I'll try to remember to link it below. So consider this kind of like part 2. First part was UI UX design in Adobe XD. Second part is making it a reality in the browser. And this is based on the relaunch of DesignCourse.com. So it's a personal project, very important to me. And so let me show you exactly what that looks like. So it's this project right here. If I refresh, we're going to see we have a nice animation over here, and then we animate the element that the card, the skeleton UI card that I created over here. So as always, if you enjoy this, make sure to subscribe and let's get started. Now, before we begin, some of you may not know, but earlier in the year, I released a UI design bootcamp on Scrimba. Now, Scrimba.com is one of the hottest new ways to learn coding as well as design. At Scrimba, you don't just watch videos. No. You're actually able to modify code in the browser while you learn. My course on UI design features over 100 lessons that are specifically tailored to help you become an awesome UI designer, and they're packed with interactive challenges. So visit the very first line in the description of this YouTube video to access my course along with many others for a very low monthly fee. All right, so here is the design that we created in the video from 2 days ago. And that video, again, is just about UI, UX, just creating this from scratch. So in order to get this illustration here exported so that we can use it via SVG and in the front-end development process, we have to make sure everything is grouped up. So if you recall, we had like individual groups here, and this is its own group. But then I took all of those and we made them groups as well. So all of them are a part of one group called Illus for illustration. All right, so that's what we're going to export. So we can right click it, go ahead and export selected, SVG, blah, blah, blah. And the resulting file that you get is right down here. And I'm going to drag this over very quickly. And this file, or the code rather, looks exactly like, let me put a container in here. Oh, I did it again. I keep on forgetting that Emmet is not CSS. Container, there we go. Let me make this a little bit larger. And the CSS, the SVG, there's a lot of SVG here. So I'm gonna paste that all in. This is all of that. Now, normally I would go through and I would remove a bunch of stuff. I know in the SVG attributes, we don't need any of this stuff, like the width, the height, and all those other ones. We just need the view box here. But yeah, I would also go through, remove all the IDs. There's actually handy, I think it's called OMG SVG. It'll remove a lot of stuff for you automatically. I'm not gonna bother with that. But this is all of it right here. Oh, it looks like there's a unclosed div or group tag right there. Well, we'll see what this ends up looking like anyhow, but just to show you what's happening, this is almost a blank HTML document. As you can see, it's referencing a CSS, main.css file. I'm just using Sass here. And so let's go ahead and also right click and open with live server just to see what's happening. Yep, and there it is. Let's use the background color in our XD document as well. So we're gonna take the artboard, get that. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and do a body, and background is going to be that color. Let's set that to white as well, and font family. I don't know, I've been really liking Nunito lately, so I'm going to be using that yet again. Oh, there's a little logo here that needs to be removed. If you ever want to find out, okay, what SVG or what is the HTML element of that, just click on it. Actually, I think when I hovered over it, showed me. It's called path_1. Let's do that, path1. There we go. So we save that. All right, so now that's looking pretty good there. All right, so what we want to do is whenever I'm doing responsive, and we're going to make this responsive, of course, responsive front-end development, we want to start with our mobile first, all right? So something small like this. So that means I'm going to just situate this right here and get this over here. And then we can also hit Control B to get rid of that sidebar here in Visual Studio Code. All right, So this right here, you have to ask yourself when you're doing front-end development, and this goes in hand with UI design as well. If you don't have like a mobile UI design prototype that like the designer gave to you, you may have to, adjust these things accordingly. I would like to see this much bigger, right? Rather than see everything all the way. So we're going to need to make adjustments for that specifically. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the SVG element itself and we're going to say position absolute. We're also going to do a Z index of 0 because there's going to be stuff on top of it like the type, right? So then we're going to have left is going to be like negative 55%. Oh, come on, Gary. Find the percentage. There you are. And then top is going to be negative 8%. And then we're going to do a width of 150%. All right, so now you could see the thing that's our focal point is now in the center like that. That's what we want here, at least for like a tablet and a mobile viewport. And we'll change things up to look more like the desktop here once we get to that step. But for now, we're doing mobile first, all right? So then what we're going to do is let's get the rest of our HTML up. We're going to have another HTML element, a container for our content. So we're going to call that, let's see here, is going to be content. Inside of content, we're going to have an H1. And we're also going to give that a class of main content. And then inside of there, I'm just going to copy exactly what we have in the prototype. This time I'm just going to put the quotes embedded, and I'm not going to mess with the special little design quotes that we had. You could probably use the CSS pre or before pseudo selector for that if you wanted to, but I'm not going to mess with that. We're also going to have a container that holds both the avatar and trad braversy right there. And we'll do like flex or something for that. So that's going to be quote container. Also, we're going to name this main content as well. The reason I'm giving these the classes of main content is because once we get to GSAP, I'm going to do a sequence animation. So the sequence animation works by taking any of the classes that have that element, the class name or whatever. You'll see what I mean in a second. All right, and then we're going to have a class of avatar. Outside of that, we're going to have a paragraph of trad braversy. And then outside of that, we're going to have our A class of CTA. And also, this will be main content as well. And again, if you're confused about this main content, just hold tight, watch the whole video. And subscribe if you haven't yet. I figured I'd just throw that in. All right, so that's all the HTML we need for the whole thing, basically, right here. I'm not going to do the or learn more, it's excessive. This isn't like, I'm not actually going to use this. This is just for learning purposes. Oh, by the way, I did kind of do some more design here. I haven't done this part yet, but yeah. Anyhow, I'll show that stuff later. All right, so now we have this stuff right here, and it's not looking good. Not looking good. So it's up to us as the front-end developer to make this look decent. If you, of course, you don't have, a prototype for the mobile, the mobile look. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to switch over to our CSS, and we're going to reference that content. So width is going to be, we're just going to do like 75%, and I'm going to do the old school method of centering things. Margin 0 auto, and then text align is going to be center, and then margin top, I'm going to put fluid. We're going to use 75% for this, and then position relative and Z index of 1 to get it on top, because this stuff was kind of on top of it slightly. So now, there we go. Now this is just a little bit ridiculous at this viewport, but this right here is looking pretty good. Just looking at the size of this in relation to that content. Next up, let's also change up our H1. So we're going to put our H1 here. We're going to say font weight is going to be normal. All right. Actually, I don't think the font weight was even bad. Maybe I should have left it bold. Whatever. Not a big deal. Font size, 1.4 M units. All right. And then also, yeah, that's looking pretty good. We're going to have our quote container down here, and that's going to be display flex. Width is going to be 100%. Place content center. And then you're going to see the avatar. Width is going to be 25 pixels. Height, 25 pixels. And then also background is going to be gray. And then border radius 50%. All right, and then after that, we're going to take our paragraph because they look terrible right now. Margins like 0.3 M, 0.5 M on the left and right. And then font size will be like 0.8 M. Maybe 0.9. All right, and then finally our call to action. I'm just going to paste this one in because there's a lot of properties. You can pause this if you wish. I also have a Codepen in here at the bottom. And then that's it. So nothing too exciting, but how about we start actually getting to the fun part, which is making this thing animate. And then we'll deal with the responsive stuff after. So what we'll do is, first we're going to get a GSAP imported. You can type in Google GSAP CDN, and the first result will allow you to copy this script tag right here. We're going to put this right before the closing div tag. And then also script, we're going to have our JavaScript right there. So we're going to have multiple timelines here. Let's see. The first one that we're going to have is going to be, I'm just going to copy this. Well, maybe I won't copy it. We're going to create a variable of timeline. And this is going to be gsap.timeline. And we can set defaults in the timeline. And so these defaults are in an object called, in an object called defaults. Sorry, I can't talk. Duration is going to be like 0.7 seconds. So that means every step that's a part of this timeline is going to be 0.7 seconds by default. We're going to do our own custom easing. One called back ease out.config. 2, opacity is going to be 0. So everything's going to be set to these 3 defaults of duration, ease, and opacity. If you're curious about like where I got this easing for GSAP easings, and we can just click on that first result, and it's going to show you kind of how these easings affect the flow of the animation. All right, so you can see back right there kind of goes up and then down, kind of a cool effect. And then after that, let's get our timeline. So we can do from, all right, and then we're going to do a class that doesn't yet exist called CardBG, all right, and then we're going to create that in a second. But we're going to do a delay of 1, a scale of 0.2, a transform origin of center, and that you have to do that usually a lot of times if you're doing rotations or scales, because it'll come in from a corner or it'll just look weird. But if you want it to scale from the center of the element of the path, you do transform origin center. And by the way, these are all normal CSS properties, but when you're doing it in JavaScript, you have to do this camel case. So normally this looks like transform origin, but we have to do transform origin. All right. So then after that, we're going to do one final optional element, and that is to offset this. To make it come in quicker, you can put a negative equals and then like a 0.2 seconds. Or if you want it to come in after a little bit, based on this duration amount right here, you just put equal and then 0.2 seconds. All right. So if we save that, we can see nothing's happening, and that's because we haven't created this card BG. I was a little bit confused for a second. So we need to take the card background, and we have to find where the card background layer actually is. So to do that, we're going to Control-Shift-I. we're going to get this right here. It's rectangle 1139. So we can do a Control F 1139, and then we can give it a class of card BG. So like you see, there it goes. Now, of course, everything else stays there. And notice how it comes up a little bit. That's the easing of back. It comes out and then comes back down. And it's delayed a little bit. And you'll see why the delay is there. It kind of works in with the rest of the timelines and kind of working backwards. But basically what you need to do is you have to create more of these from instances for each of the element that you want to animate that's a part of this whole card here. All right, so the next one that we're going to create is going to be called card top. All right, card top. Now for card top, well, before we find it, let's go ahead and put in the properties for this one specifically. So we're going to do this time a scale Y, because I kind of want this card top right here to kind of come down. All right, so scale Y, and it's going to be 0. And then transform origin is going to be top. Not center this time, but the top of the element. And then we don't need any time offset there. So now watch what happens. Nothing, because we need to do this, card top. So let's find this. Yeah, I think it's path 40. All right, so path 40. It's right after the other one. Class equals card top. There we go. Isn't that nice? That is just so nice. Let's make it bigger so you can see it easier. There we go. All right, so let's continue on. Next up, again, we're going to have to do this for each one of those elements. And don't worry, it's not going to take that much longer. We're going to have the icon. There's a photograph right here, that little icon photograph that, you know, by default is visible, so we don't want that. So let's adjust that. So icon, that is going to be scale, it's going to be 0.2. And then I'll just copy transform origin center. And then we're going to do an offset here. This time it's going to be negative equals 0.7. So it's going to come in as soon as the other one comes in. Let's get that. I think that is named something like icon finder, because that's, there we go. So this is going to be class icon. There we go. So now let's watch this. Very nice. I like that. So with those offsets, either using the negative, equal, or just equal alone, you can add and remove time and control exactly in the sequence animation. You can kind of create sequence animations by hand. I'll show you also how to create sequence animations a little bit later on. Now we're just going to do each one of these little, I'm going to call them blips, like these little skeleton placeholders for UI elements. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So what I'm going to do is replicate that, Shift Alt and the down arrow key for those of you who are wondering how I was doing that. That's going to be blip 1. Blip 1, they're all going to be the same. So it's going to be scale. Let's see here. Scale is just going to be scale X on 0. So they're going to come in from the side from 0 and then just push out. Kind of like it's all just writing in real time. And I'm going to Shift Alt down. So there's 5 of them. 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one's not going to have an offset, but the rest of them are. 2, 4, like 5 and 7. So these kind of come in a little bit quicker than the ones before it. So now we just have to create a blip class for each of these. And the first one is rectangle. Let's see here. It's going to be rectangle and 1141. You can see 5 of them right here. We're just going to do a class of blip 1 and 5, 4, 3, 2. Look at that. Isn't that exciting? I like it. All right, so let's also, after it's like, I want to have some sort of movement afterwards. Maybe it'll float up and down a little bit. So in order to do that, we're going to create a new timeline, and we're also going to create a class, or a group rather, with a class of whole card. All right, so if I find, so our whole group of the card itself begins with this illustration, because remember that's what we named the layer in XD. And it's going to be group class whole card. Now we just have to find the end of the card, and I believe that is going to be right here. I could be wrong though. What we can do is test that out. Let's look over here. Where's whole card? Yep. So now our new group here in SVG is called whole card. So now we can take the whole thing and start floating it up and down. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and call this timeline 2. And for timeline 2, our defaults are just going to be a duration of 1.5 and a delay. Let's see here, sorry. And a delay, we're going to delay this whole thing for 1 second before it actually starts for this particular timeline. So then what we can say is timeline 2.2. So we don't have to use from, we can use to. And that's basically saying, you know, whatever the default stylings on this element are, we're going to go from that to this element. It works backwards opposite if you're using from. So it's whatever the properties that you set here, it's going to go from that to whatever the defaults in the CSS and however it's styled, if that makes sense. So 2 is going to be whole card. And we're going to say y10 repeat -1. So you could put repeat in there for any of these, from or to. You can repeat it for like a certain number of times, like just 2 times. Or if you want an infinite, it's -1. I don't know why, but it's just -1. And then yo-yo is true. That means it'll go back and forth between those two elements. So let's see what this looks like. Notice how it's now slightly bobbling up and down between 10 pixels. And it kind of just starts when stuff kind of comes in. You can make it start, you know, whenever you want with these properties here and the delay and all that stuff. Finally, I want this stuff to come in as well. And in fact, I want it to come in initially. So I want this stuff to come in first, and then maybe right when this is kind of almost finished, this will start animating as well. All right. So now we'll go ahead and we're going to create another timeline. We'll just call this timeline 3 or TL3. And the defaults for this one is just going to be duration of 1.5. And for timeline 3, we're going to say TL3 from main content. Remember that main content class I was applying on 3 different elements? That's what that's where this comes in handy. So we're going to do opacity 0. It's going from 0, so we're not going to see it initially. Y is going to be 40, so on the Y vertical axis, it's going to come from 40 pixels. And then stagger is going to be 0.3. You can use stagger to stagger animations, any of them that have the class of main content. There we go. Look at that. All right, so the last final thing to worry about is just making this responsive. All right, so for that, we're going to go ahead to our main.css, or Sass file rather. And what, you know, as a front-end developer, and again, if you don't have a prototype that shows you exactly when and what to do, you need to ask yourself, at what point, you know, should this layout start to change? I'm going to say it's probably right around here, because we'll have enough space to have this to the left and this element to the right. So now we just create our media queries, and The first one I'll create is around 840. And in there, we're going to set the body to font size 22 pixels just to enlarge everything. Overflow X is going to be hidden because we'll have scroll bars, unfortunately. So now you can see if we go from this right to 840, all of our type increases automatically. Content is going to be text align left. Width will be 80%. Margin will be 10 M units on the top, auto, and then 0 on the bottom, auto, left and right. All right. So now we're getting somewhere, but still, this is all messed up. Don't worry. H1, we're going to take width is 50%. That way it's not overlapping as much, but we're going to have to take this element and push it over there. We're going to take our SVG. All right, so we're going to say left is unset because it was set before. Right is going to be -5%. Top is going to be -8%. What am I doing? I'm typing all these other random. And then width is going to be 1200 pixels. All right. Now, of course, things are still messed up, like this whole horrible thing. So let's get that fixed. We have our quote container, display, flex, place, content is going to be unset. There we go, a little bit better. And then our avatar, width 25 pixels. I think I already set it at that. I don't know if I did or not. Yeah, it feels like I don't need to do this. Yeah. One thing I needed to do is like, this is not correct. In fact, I need to fix that because this is not in line with this. I didn't do it in my original project, but all I need to do is really just take the margin on the top and bottom, probably just to 0. There we go. Now it's like perfectly in line. So all I have to do is come here, quote container, what is that, a paragraph element, I think? I don't know. Margin top, we'll just do 0. There we go. All right, so that's looking better. And notice how I made certain, you may be wondering, like if you're new to this, like how did I know to use -8 and -5? Well, I didn't. I was just trial and error to see how those values were responding to the layout. See, like this is like a tablet, and this would be perfectly fine, but once we get to this area, we still have enough room. We have enough room to where we can put this in a 2-column layout, essentially. After that, there's probably one more, because if you go out larger, this is just too much spread out. So I'm going to copy the last one, because I think you get the point now. Save this, and we'll show you what that one looks like. Yeah, let me see here. Yeah, so once we get to 1200, we increase the size of this, and it just overall looks better. We could probably make the H1 a little bit thicker, a little bit larger as well, but I'll leave that up to you guys. And then obviously, if we go out even further, you'd still want to make some more adjustments, or just take the container and make it like a 1200 pixel container that's no more fluid, but it'll just center everything. And that way you don't have to keep on making media queries as it goes out. So one last look. Yeah, I like that. So I think really you could probably do, I'm going to use this in the actual project because I really like it on DesignCourse.com, but I think I might do some more interesting animations with this. But just a general overview of how you would take this and animate these things with SVG and GSAP. All right, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Definitely check out DesignCourse.com here in the future, and make sure to subscribe. Right now there's just a stupid ugly coming soon page, but I'm going to be actually collecting emails real soon. Make sure to subscribe though to get the notification about when that's actually going to release, and that should be later this year or early next year. Very excited about it. Anyhow, I'm going to shut up, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.